The New York Knicks were down 27 points at halftime of an NBA Finals game. 27. The largest comeback ever completed in the history of the finals was 24. So when the Knicks walked into that locker room trailing by more than any team had ever come back from, the game was supposed to be over. Instead, they did something no team in 79 years of finals basketball had ever done. This is the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. Here's how we'll tell it. First, the hole. Exactly how deep it was and why it should have been fatal. Then, the record they had to break just to make it close. Then, the turnaround itself. The second half that flipped a blowout into history. And the final score that will be talked about for decades. Every number here is verified. Let's get into it. This is Game is Culture. If you love the moments that rewrite the record book, hit subscribe. We're chasing 1,000. It's free and it genuinely helps. Now, just how deep was the hole? The hole. 27 down. At halftime, the scoreboard read San Antonio 76, New York 49. A 27-point deficit at home in the finals. And it had been worse. The Knicks trailed by as many as 29 in the first half. This wasn't a close game that slipped away. It was a demolition. By every historical measure, a game like this is already decided at the break. And here's the number that makes it historic. Before tonight, the largest comeback ever completed in an NBA Finals game was 24 points by the 2008 Boston Celtics. In 79 years of Finals basketball, nobody had ever erased more than 24. The Knicks were down 27. To win this game at all, they didn't just need a comeback. They needed the greatest one that had ever happened. Why it should have been over. Think about what San Antonio did in that first half. They made 14 threes, an all-time finals record for a single half. They shot 60% from the field. They posted an offensive rating over 160. That is not a team that got lucky and built a soft lead. That was one of the most dominant halves in finals history. The Knicks weren't just behind. They were being humiliated on their own floor. The turnaround. Then the second half happened, and it was a different sport. The Spurs, who poured in 76 points in the first half, managed only 30 in the second. 30! The Knicks flipped a fire hose into a faucet. New York outscored San Antonio 58-30 after the break. That is a 28-point swing in 24 minutes, exactly when elimination was staring them down. Look at the two halves side by side, and the whole game tells itself. First half, Spurs 76, Knicks 49. Second half, Knicks 58, Spurs 30. It's almost a perfect mirror image. One team played the best half of their season before the break, and the other played it after. The difference was just which 24 minutes counted on the final scoreboard. Watch the Knicks deficit shrink in real time. Down 27 at the half. The lead melts through the third quarter, and by the final buzzer, it's gone, replaced by a 1-point New York lead. They didn't just chip away at history. They drove a bulldozer through it, one possession at a time, until the largest comeback ever became the final result. And the crowd that spent the entire first half in stunned silence came roaring back to life. Madison Square Garden went from a morgue to the loudest building in sports in about a quarter and a half. You could feel the game tilting. Once the Knicks cut it to single digits, the pressure flipped entirely onto the Spurs. And a young San Antonio team felt every decibel of it. That's the hidden engine of every great comeback. It's never just about the team scoring. It's about the crowd dragging them forward and the favorite tightening up at the same time. By the time the lead hit single digits, you could feel both things happening at once, and the avalanche only got faster. The man who led it. And Jalen Brunson authored it. 36 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals on 12 of 25 shooting, including 9 of 11 from the free throw line when every point was life or death. The biggest comeback in finals history needed a closer, and the Knicks captain delivered the game of his life on the night it mattered most. And he wasn't alone. Karl Anthony Towns was a quiet wrecking ball. 13 points and 10 rebounds on 80% shooting and a team best plus 17. The role players hit timely shots, the defense clamped down, and the free throws fell. A comeback this size is never one man, but it needs one man to refuse to lose, and that was Brunson. Put the final next to the halftime score and the whole miracle fits in one frame. At the half, down 27. At the buzzer, up 107-106. The largest comeback the NBA Finals has ever seen, completed at home, with a championship now squarely in view. Let's frame the magnitude one more way. The old record was 24. The Knicks erased 27. They didn't just break the comeback record, they cleared it by 3 full points in the most pressure-packed environment the sport offers. Records like this don't fall by accident. They fall when a desperate team decides the history books are going to have to make room. What it means now. And this wasn't just a great night, it was a hinge in the series. The win gives New York a 3-1 lead and puts them one victory away from their first championship since 1973. They didn't only steal a game they had no business winning, they may have stolen the Spurs' soul in the process. Coming back from 27 down does something to both locker rooms. Now the fair note. San Antonio is a phenomenal young team, and a half this dominant says they're not going anywhere quietly. One bad 24 minutes doesn't erase how good they've looked, and Game 5 is on their floor. But you cannot unring this bell. The Knicks now know that no deficit is safe against them, and the Spurs know the same thing. That's a heavy thing to carry into an elimination game. So there it is, down 27, on the brink, against a team playing record-breaking basketball. The New York Knicks authored the single greatest comeback in NBA Finals history and won it 107-106. The question now is simple. Do they close it out and end a 53-year wait, or do the Spurs strike back? Tell me below. And if you want every chapter of this series, subscribe and join the family.